Hey you guys, I'm back with a full wig tutorial. A lot of you guys have been asking how I make my wigs. So if you want to know how I constructed this sleek middle part wig, then just keep on watching. So the hair that I will be using for today's wig was provided by Beauty Forever Hair, and I do have 3 bundles of their Malaysian straight. I have the lengths 22, 20, 18, and I have an 18-inch lace closure. So I am going to dye my bundles. I always dye my bundles black, and the dye I'll be using is the Revlon Color Silk dye in just a regular color black. So the things that you'll need for this tutorial, of course, you will need a mannequin head. I have a just regular styrofoam mannequin head, nothing special. You would need some T-pins just to hold your dome cap in place. The dome cap I'm using is a Proclaim stretch cap. It's the one with the thinner band, needle and thread, of course, and some clips to just hold hair out of your way if you need to. So let's go ahead and get started. So I'm going to go ahead and put my dome cap on my mannequin head, and this one's kind of big for this mannequin head, so I just place it however I need to for whatever I'm doing at the time. So the first thing I'm going to be placing is my closure. So for that, I'm going to move it back on the top of the head, and I'm going to use my T-pin to secure the cap at the exact point that I needed at that time. So to sew the closure on, typically if you're a beginner, you would want to put your dome cap on your head and then mark it with concealer or eyeliner pencil to know exactly where you want to place your closure. I'm just going to eyeball it because I've been doing it for a while, and I'm going to use some more T-pins to basically secure the closure so it doesn't move while I'm sewing. And I'm also going to go ahead and get the hair up out of the way so it doesn't interfere with my sewing as well. So I've already sewed one side of the closure down. I sew one side first and then the other side, and then I sew the back of the closure down. The reason being is because you don't want to sew around like in a half circle from side to back and then front, because your closure may shift as you're doing that. So you want to sew one side first and then the other side to make sure that it lines up exactly where you want it to be, and then you finally secure the back at the end. So when I first start making my wig at the bottom, I don't sew through the band completely. It's not the thick band, it's just the material double folded over, but I only sew through the first part of that band. I don't sew through all the way because you don't want the perimeter of your cap to be too tight and then give you headaches or just simply not fit. So when I first sewed through, I only first do the first flap of the band. So when I am sewing my first track, I go pretty close to the very edge of my cap so I can basically have that no track look if I want to flip it up, which I never do, but just in case if I should do it. When you sew it at the very, very bottom, how this spandex cap reacts if you should flip the hair up, you don't see any tracks. It will just look like it's a faux wig, and it will look like you sewed hair from the bottom even though you really didn't. So here I'm going to show you guys how I start my tracks, if I'm starting a new track or just starting a new needle thread. When I first start, I do sew through the actual weft of the hair, and then to make that first initial secure knot, I place my needle through the actual looping of the thread, and then I'm going to pull that, and that's going to give me my first secure knot, so the thread's not going to come loose or anything like that. And then for the remainder of the weft, I'm not going to sew through the actual weft of the tracks. I'm going to sew below it. But as you can see, when I loop around the weft, then the loop that I create with my thread, I put the needle through that, and then that creates another knot. So every stitch that I make is ultimately a knot, so it's very secure. I don't really have to patch up my wigs. It's very rare that I ever have tracks coming loose or anything like that, and I think it's because I sew such a secure weft while I'm doing it with these single knots basically. So I'm going to show you guys how I flip over my wefts. So when it comes time to flip over, I do two stitches basically in the same area before I even flip it over, and that's to make sure that the track is secure where it's at before I even do the flip over. And then when I do my flip over, I typically place the tracks very close together, so when you flip the hair back you don't see any tracks showing. And then when I come to the very edge, as you can see from the point I was inserting the needle, is kind of a curved angle. And then when I flip over the hair, I'm going to make two more stitches in that area very close together, and that's to basically make sure that it's going to be as flat as possible and you're not going to have any bumps or any lumps or anything like that. So to close a knot whenever I'm starting a new thread or just a new bundle, I sew through the weft at one time and then I go under, and then I use the length of the thread to wrap around the needle about 3 or 4 times. It's going to create basically a three knot, and then I just hold where I wrap the needle around the thread, and then I just pull the needle through, still holding where I originally created the knot, and just pull it through and make sure it's very tight. So when I'm doing my very last track, typically I don't cut my tracks. I will just keep doing the fold over method, but this time I had to end up cutting it because I almost didn't have enough hair left over, so I just wanted to make sure I had enough hair just to finish that last track. So when I'm doing my very last track, I do make sure I sew it connected to the lace closure right before the hair starts on the lace closure to make sure it just has a seamless finish and you don't see any lace, and it just goes from the lace closure hair to the wefts and it's just like a seamless finish. So I basically just sew that very last track under the very rim of the lace closure all the way around. So this is the finished wig, and I wanted to show you guys the sides of it with the flip over method. So as you can see, if the wind should blow, you're not seeing any tracks. It's just hair on top of hair. So it does take a little bit of practice because it took me a while before I finally got my wigs looking like this. I do have some that have gaps in between, but this one came out really good. So practice makes perfect, you guys. So this is what the wig looks like underneath after you're finally finished. And I just want to show you guys, see how the very bottom, it just, you don't even see a track, you just see hair, and the sides as well. So now you're just going to go ahead and cut out that extra fabric that's beneath your lace. So you want to expose the lace. So let's get down to the most important part, your parting. So you can typically place your wig on your head at this point if you want to make sure you get your parting absolutely perfect. My hair wasn't braided yet, so I just did it on my mannequin head. But you would just basically, you know, make your parting how you want it to match the parting on your head or for whatever side. I'm doing a middle part, so I'm just going to part it straight down the middle on the closure and just comb it out. So you want to just go ahead and get your perfect parting. And then after I do that, then I'm just going to take some water and I'm going to spritz the hair down. I'm not going to drench it soaking wet, but I'm going to get it wet enough so it can make a mold basically. And then after I do that, I'm just going to take a soft bristle brush and I'm just going to brush it in the direction, of course, I want the hair to lie. And I'm not a fan of the super flat closure look. To me, it makes it look even more wiggish if it's so flat. But if you want the very flat look, then once you do this, you can go ahead and wrap the wig in a scarf on the mannequin head so the scarf can make sure it lays very, very flat while it's drying. I'm just going to brush it how I want it to be, and I'm just going to let it air dry however it dries. And then after it dries, I just tweeze my part to my liking. I used to do thick parts, but it's kind of hard to blend that way. So now I keep my parting pretty small. So this is the finished look of the wig that I made. This hair is just absolutely gorgeous, you guys. Like, just make sure you stay tuned for my initial review on this hair. I'm absolutely in love with it, how flowy and airy it is. But this is the end result of my wig. This is what it looks like, and I'm going to go ahead and show you guys my closure up close. The small parting, it just, to me, it blends so seamlessly. I have no concealer on my closure or my scalp right now. This is just what the closure looks like, non-bleach and everything. I absolutely love that closure. But this is what it looks like. Hopefully this tutorial was helpful for everyone who's been asking how I make my units. This is how I do it. Thumbs up if you like this video. And of course, make sure you stay tuned for my updates on this hair. Subscribe if you haven't already, and I will see you dolls in my next video. Mwah. Bye, you guys.